Hey everyone, it's Ivan, KBadger.com, here today to tell you about the 3-day carbine class with Sentinel Concepts over at Thunder Ranch. Earlier this summer, I had the good fortune of going down to Thunder Ranch, doing some shooting with Steve Fisher at a kind of collaboration course where Thunder Ranch hosted Steve Fisher, Sentinel Concepts, to teach 3 days of carbine, and it was really cool. As things usually start in Thunder Ranch, none other than Clint Smith, going over some of the finer points of Thunder Ranch and safety brief.
Later, but I'll give you an example. Now this is what I call the Alex Baldwin safety test. Rule 1, all guns are loaded. 2, don't point the muzzle on anything you don't want to destroy. 3, keep your finger off the trigger, okay? 'Cause you're willing to shoot before you're sure of your target and backstop. I call that a major fail, motherfucker. Okay, so we're not doing that shit, right?
And from there, Steve Fisher kind of took it away as far as what people can kind of expect and, I don't know, kind of managing expectations. Like, hey, what kind of gun did you bring? What optic did you bring? Here's what we're going to do over the next couple days. And then kind of got after it. Headed out to the range after that brief. Basically, the second half of that first day was really just dedicated to zeroing and figuring out holds within your reticle. So we're out there on Brown Range, which stretches out, I want to say like 700 yards, and initially going over rifle setup and zeroing. Like, hey, what zero are you going to run? Hopefully you know why you're going to run it, pros and cons, things like that. And some of this was discussed in the classroom, but then kind of again went over it out on the range, and then getting into zeroing and making sure that you had a good zero, whichever zero you decided you wanted. And then again, just kind of working your gun out to these different distances on paper, both at 100, 200, and 300. And with those different distances, again, based on whatever zero, so that you could see where your gun was printing, respectively, depending on your zero, at those different distances. And then also refining where your gun is impacting within your reticle. And I bring this up because if you watch my gear loadout, one of the guns I was shooting, ended up shooting 2 guns, but one of the guns I was shooting was I think a 12.5 Griffin Mark II, and on it was a ACSS reticle, a 1:6 first focal point, and it had a BDC in there. And I definitely ran into issues with the BDC not being true to what I was shooting. And so this exercise, in part, helped figure out exactly where it was printing, as far as exactly where it was printing at those different distances, regardless of what the BDC said it was going to be shooting, if that makes sense. So a lot of data that day. Day 2 pretty much picked up where we left off, this time kind of stretching those distances further out. So again, reduced like low probability shot, largely shooting like essentially the head on these, I think 5'7", 5'8", like steel men, and working out from initially at 100, but this time getting all the way out to 500. And again, seeing where your rounds were impacting and having people spot for you, so they would call it. And yeah, just really kind of dialing it in at those different increments. Again, 1 out to 500 yards. We then got into some holds, so either holding over or holding under. So if you had an optic, say a mil reticle, where you could basically dial and come up to a 300 yard impact, like 300 yard zero, then you would do that, and with that dope in your gun or in your optic, you'd respectively hold over or hold under, depending on if the target was further or is closer. Again, the ACSS reticle I had in that primary arms did not lend itself to this. It was a BDC. So I actually grabbed another gun that I had brought as backup, which was my SCAR 20. Love that thing. It's in 6.5, and I had the Leupold Mark V HD 2-10 in there, which has a mil reticle and its exposed turrets. So I was able to go through and basically work all those drills with that gun. We then moved into a little bit of positional shooting, kind of, hey, here's best practices, these are things you want to think about, and then getting into it and get to practice some of the stuff.
Who else has to shoot? Got these guys on.
And while we had been really focused on shooting low probability shots at further distances, we then moved over to the short range and started working offset. Again, figuring out whatever your offset was, printing on paper or cardboard rather, and getting to work all that. And then starting to introduce a little bit of stuff as far as movement as well as moving targets. And rounding out day 2, got into people's favorite thing, malfunctions. I had actually never seen clearing malfunctions the way Steve taught it, and I really liked it. That was definitely a takeaway for me. And again, it was foreign to me as far as like, hey, clear this malfunction this way or this one this way. And Steve's method is like, you will clear all the malfunctions by just clearing it this way. And definitely works, to include like bolt override and things like that. So got some reps doing that. And finally, rounding out day 2, actually went back to the lodge, Clint and Heidi's house, and had an awesome dinner. Whole class was there. It was really cool. Day 3, got back after it, initially working with slings as well as positional shooting, and kind of some exploratory learning as far as finding out what works both with you, like body type, as well as equipment limitations. We then got into some barricade shooting, and with that, deflection, where Steve actually demonstrated for the class, like you can get a lot of deflection, to include, we were probably only at maybe 20, 25 yards. And yeah, if you get on the barricade, depending on what is resting on it, like you're definitely missing the target, even in 25 yards. And so definitely a good learning point for those that had never experienced that. But yeah, get to work through a number of different barricade drills too. And from there, we got in some movement as well as low probability shots. And yeah, just working through those drills. Something else that was touched on is basically shooting at 90 degrees. So your gun turned 90 degrees and like, hey, what is happening downrange based on how your gun's set up? So your optic is zeroed directly above the barrel. When you turn it, what does that translate to? And yeah, exploring with your gun and figuring it out and getting those hits out on steel. Then, because of scheduling, after we broke for lunch, actually handed out certificates that afternoon, and pretty cool to include kind of backstory on the Brown Range, which if you've been there, pretty cool story. Once that was wrapped up, got into arguably kind of the most fun part of the class. Essentially 3 different stations broken up out there at the Brown Range, where over on the short range, working on movement and shooting while maintaining an accuracy standard. And yeah, not easy, but pretty cool to work through those drills.
Go! Fight, fight, fight! Fight! Good.
Then over on kind of the long range, it was choose your own adventure. Again, there's steel going out to like 700 yards. Some of the like KYL, know your limit, KYL targets, all kinds of stuff, just spread throughout all down Brown Range. And so people had the opportunity to work on everything they had learned past 2.5 days and yeah, stretch those guns out and see what they could do. For my own part, I ended up spending some time with the SCAR and stretching it out using the Kilo 10K, I guess, Gen 2. Pretty cool. I'd paired it with my SCAR, range it, get my ballistic solution, and shoot it and hit it. And the last and probably my favorite part is the Punisher. So much fun running the Punisher. Essentially a huge prop line, all kinds of different things, and this one was unique as far as this class, unlike some of the other ones I've done where they'll call out all kinds of stuff, anywhere from 1 to 300 yards, maybe further, I don't even remember, but yeah, to include low probability shots. and essentially working all those skills and all that data you had collected over the past couple of days and stretching the gun out and getting hits. So much fun. I ended up going through and shooting it initially with my Griffin Armament Mark II. And then I eventually shot it one more time, this time with my Scar 20. Such a blast.
I mean, I can.
Say again?
I can make you go through the whole D60 if you want. All right, Ivan. 3 red. Standing man. Cool. Top of the rooftop. V of the roof. 2 red, 1 yellow. Good hit. Good hit. Come on down. Anywhere you want on the wall. 2 yellow. 2 yellow. 1. From there, red head, 200 yards.
200?
200, red head.
Roger.
Good hit. Go to the barrel. Three yellow, 3 yellow, 3 yellow. Nice work, nice work. Come on out. Hell yeah. Rock pile, anywhere you want on the rocks. 2 yellow, 1 blue, 300. Good. Blue, 300. You see him? Nope, to the right. There it is. Hell yeah, hit him again just because you can. Going to the cross.
Overall, it was a great time out there. One, Thunder Ranch is an amazing facility, and their staff, to include Jack, was there. It's basically kind of almost like a collaboration class, and it was cool too because you're getting largely the same information 2 different ways. There wasn't a bunch of like conflicting information or anything like that, but sometimes just hearing it differently resonates better with some people. And so basically getting all this information kind of phrased differently at different points, or for that matter, also just being exposed to new things, like Steve going over malfunction clearance. And overall, it was really cool. One of the biggest takeaways was kind of, as Steve harps on it, is low power variables are just a magnified red dot. And after using it, you're like, oh yeah, pretty much is. And for my own part, I definitely realized as much as I like having a BDC, and it does great for like most things, I think just hitting kind of generous targets at respective distances, you're like, oh, okay. But when it comes to actually really refining your point of aim, definitely a big fan of mill reticles. Personally, that's where I'm at with that. If you have the opportunity, I would definitely encourage you to check out both Sentinel Concepts as well as Thunder Ranch. Amazing courses provided by both those guys. This one just happened to be together. And if you are going to Thunder Ranch, also check out the Cowboy Dinner Tree. Right before the class started, we ended up going out there. Thunder Ranch staff, as well as Steve and myself, and the place is amazing. Really cool. Definitely want to plan ahead. One, it's in the middle of nowhere, which so is Thunder Ranch, but definitely want to plan ahead. They have quite a wait list, but really incredible food, basically family style, and yeah, amazing atmosphere, really cool place. But if you get the opportunity, maybe check out one of Steve Fisher's class or something at Thunder Ranch. And if you are at Thunder Ranch, check out the Cowboy Dinner Tree because it's pretty awesome. But as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.